Hello and welcome to this very musical episode of the Silmarillion Film Project. We are, to remind you, if you're just listening, streaming video and everything live on YouTube, I think. And we also have our GoToWebinar live. And I am your co-host, Dave Kale, and I'm joined, as always, by the token professor, Corey Olson. And as I alluded to earlier, this is one of our patented music episodes. So we are joined, as we always are on the music episodes, by our very special guests and wonderful creators, Philip Menzies and Tony Mead. How are you guys? I would say
Very
good
well,
evening, but
thanks.
of course, Philip, it's the middle of the afternoon for you.
Right. So
Philip's
joining us
from the other side of the world.
That's right, from Australia. And Tony, where are you located right now?
Denver.
From Denver, right? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we're
Quite as far from me as Australia.
That's true.
Yeah.
In fact, he's
But
the
much
closest
higher.
one to you.
But it's like we're time traveling because Phil's in Friday. So
Exactly. It's already tomorrow for
Yes.
Phil. So that's him.
That's right.
Those are.
That's right.
And,
And even though I'm in the Blue Mountains, Middle Earth itself, I'm sure, Tony, you are much higher in altitude than I
Yes.
am. We only have pretend mountains in Australia.
Yeah, I see the Misty Mountains out of my window every day.
Yes.
That's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
This
That's
is
pretty
great.
cool.
We got a lot of geography here today
Sure
represented.
do. Sure
and
do.
Some wonderful sounds to accompany the beautiful geography.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's really this is always one of the really fun episodes. I mean, it was something that we kind of talked about at the very beginning. Of course, we're always really grateful for all the creative contributions from our whole team. The Film Project, which started just as a podcast, me and Dave and Trish just kind of talking about stuff, right? And, grew into this larger community project. And one of the things which has really enriched the program, and of course, our folks from our writers' room have been with us regularly all season long, and that's been really wonderful. But one of the things that has really enriched the Film Project very greatly has been the work of our musical team. As it's one of the things that was very high on my list of things that it would be really cool, to have and to think about more and to actually be able to hear. Is music, because of course the musical score is so powerful, and there's so many ways in which the music can be used to kind of bring things together and bring out themes and kind of connect the ideas, bring together the ideas that we talk about when we're planning the seasons and stuff. So we started doing this way back in season 1, right, Philip, I think. And
right.
so yeah, it's this is now the 5th time that we have stopped for some musical compositions and thinking about and of course the way we've been doing this is kind of thinking through in terms of like themes and motifs and generally. But of course we also have, and we've often had those associated with particular characters, right? And of course, we have a couple other special songs. We had a special song last year, which was the Oath of Fëanor song in season 4, which was really cool. And then this year we have another song, episode 1 of season 5, featured the arrival of the House of Beor into the West, into Beleriand. And we had them, the script called for them to be singing a song as they came in. So we had the special composition of that. So we're gonna start with that song. First, pause just briefly for announcements, because of course it is the fall fundraising campaign for Signum University, so I cannot forbear to make the announcement about that. It's the time of year in which we always stop and thank everybody who has made generous donations to help support Signum University. Donations to Signum, of course, are completely tax deductible, and really wonderful to have the support of our community community. We've raised already $63,000 in support of Signum this year for our annual fund in gifts and pledges. Our goal is $100,000 for the year. So we've done wonderfully so far. Still have a ways to go. Really value all of the support from our whole community there. So if you've never made a donation to Signum University, I'd ask you to consider doing that this year as we continue our fall fundraising drive. And remember that this year we're doing a weekly drawing. We do the drawing on Wednesday nights, so we're now in the midst of the third week of our the third drawing that we've done. Which is everybody who makes a donation during the week is entered into this drawing, and the winner of the drawing gets either gets basically one of our one course from one of our areas for free. So you get either a month of Signum Academy Clubs, our kids program, one of our Signum Path courses, an anytime audit seat for one of our graduate courses, or one of our new space modules. We're launching a new program called the Space Program, Signum Portals for Adult Continuing Education, which is a really broad continuing education program, and it's going to be really cool. I'm really excited about it. I'm going to be making some announcements about that, doing so a full explanation of our space program and opening registration for our space modules next Saturday on the 16th of October at our annual fundraising webathon at the end of our campaign. So that's going to be happening next week. Dave, I'm doing a fun experimental thing during the webathon as well. So I was invited to do a Reddit AMA with the Tolkien fan group on Reddit. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna do an AMA, but I'm gonna stream it. So I'm gonna live stream me doing the AMA so that I can talk about my answers to the questions that I get asked with the people on the stream while I'm answering it. So it's going to be a little meta and possibly a little chaotic there, but it should be fun.
Which subreddit are you doing?
It's I'm trying to remember exactly. Is it Tolkien fans? Let me see. Hang on. I can find it.
Well, that's definitely a real subreddit.
It is. Yeah. No, it's the one where Carl Hostetter just did one recently to talk about his new book. Howard Shore was just on there a little while ago. Same one. Yeah, I'm trying to. I want to make sure that I say the right subreddit and don't screw that up. But I think that's it. Yeah.
When are you doing this?
Tolkien
again?
fans. That's the one. Yep. Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, it's going to be at 2 p.m. Eastern time on the 16th is when I'm doing that. When I'm doing my two-way live AMA performance. So anyway, so there's going to be lots of fun stuff happening on the 16th, and as I said, I'll be announcing and describing and opening registration for our new space program and everything, all that. So, and don't forget, as I say, you'll get entered into a drawing to get a free module or a free a ticket to any one of our programs. Every week we draw from one of our donors. So everyone who support, we enjoy giving stuff back to our donors, especially during the fall fundraising campaign, to just thank everybody for their support. So, and the last thing, Middlemoot is this weekend, the day after tomorrow. I am going to be leaving. I'm going to be flying out about 5 hours after we finish tonight to go out to Iowa and hang out with folks there for Middlemoot. You can still attend either in person if you're in the general Iowa area, or you can attend digitally. Just go to signumuniversity.org/events, and you can find the registration link for Middlemoot, so you can still join us there on for Middlemoot. Mike Drought is coming. He's going to be giving a talk on philology, which is going to be. I love hearing Mike Drought talking about philology, so that's going to be great fun. And that's what's happening now. Let us get back to. The music here. So Tell me about, Philip and Tony, tell me a little bit about how the collaboration on The Light in the West kind of came about. How because the text of the song was written as part of the ongoing, the script outlining and designing, right?
Right.
Yes, yeah. It was the script that the words are directly from the script that was written by Rhiannon from the script team. At that stage, I was sort of busy with a whole lot of songs, so I threw it over to Tony and thought they're wanting a folk song type feel, and I thought Tony had the right musical background and experience to be able to, and came up with a demo in like a day or two, which was fantastic. And I know, Tony, whether you want to talk about part of your creating process and how you came up with the tune.
Yeah, so since we had the lyrics, most of the lyrics, like 90% of the lyrics, that's, and the funny thing is, like, that's not really how I usually work. As a songwriter who works alone,
right?
Usually the lyrics are last. Usually you're either writing melody and then you figure out the chords and then you do the lyrics, or the other way around. But always the lyrics usually come last. So, and I have done stuff like that before, but it's always interesting. And so the first thing I had to do was pull the lyrics out of the script and kind of put them in a more of a stanza format. And they did lend themselves to a verse chorus sort of thing. The only real changes that I made to the lyrics, there were maybe half dozen very minor changes to certain words to make it work more musically. Mm-hmm. The only thing was, I think it's the third verse was only half a verse. It was only half of the rhyming quatrain. So I wrote the second two lines of that and made sure to use very Tolkienian language like sundering and stuff like that. Right. But so once I had that, rather than trying to do the melody right away, the biggest thing was to try to figure out what the rhythm was. So, once I figured out what that rhythm was, and it kind of lent itself to the sort of sea shanty-ish sort of 3/4 kind of waltzy thing, that gave me the rhythm for the whole thing, and the lyrics really sort of fit in that. And then it was just a matter of figuring out what to do with the actual music. The music it's not the same, but it's sort of inspired and sort of feel to a really old kind of obscure Christmas song called "Tomorrow Shall Be My Dancing Day," which is a 3/4 song. So it's kind of based on that sort of feel. And then once I had that, I kind of had the melody, and then everything else kind of fell together as far as the music. The one thing that I did want to make sure of is, because Phil was specific that it needed to be, more of a folk song, and which makes sense because you're dealing with men at the sort of very beginning, of their incursions into the West. It should be simple. It should be something that, anybody could remember, anybody could sing, and also have this sort of call and response kind of thing going on, because I was kind of joking with Phil. I was like, it should be kind of like a revival meeting a little bit, because it is a slightly religious song. It has a slightly, because Beor to me would have been something like like a Moses or a Joshua figure, leading these people into the promised land. So he would have
absolutely
sort of a prophet thing going on,
mm-hmm.
and having a sort of call and response thing made sense, where the leaders would sing the important stuff, and then everybody else would answer back with the thing that we're all celebrating.
Yeah. And it was, from my memory of that script and outline, it was designed to be a walking, like this is the song that they sang while they were, on the march, while they're certainly when we see them singing it in the episode itself. So, yeah.
I kind of think of those old, because I grew up in the country, with very country Baptist churches where you go literally down to the river to do baptisms, and people would sing those kinds of songs as you walk down to the river, kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, no, exactly. Nick is saying that a sea shanty is a good comparison. The song gets reprised in episode 8, in which there's a bunch of other work songs, that people are just like singing while they work together. So that kind of an idea of that yes, this is not a concert piece. This is not even something that you would sing in like in a drawing room, right, in front of a small audience or something like that. This is a communal sing while you walk, sing while you work kind of song. So yeah, that's definitely.
And even when Phil did his orchestral arrangement, one thing I was really kind of adamant about is I wanted that core melody to stay very strong, and not so that it was that core thread through it, even if it's really elaborate or whatever, that core thread would be very strong through it.
Yeah, because I mean, you got to imagine that. I mean, we know that their instruments were relatively limited, right? That the men had before they came into Beleriand. So you got to imagine, one person strumming on the root harp, right? Or
tabor or something like that. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Somebody playing a fife, somebody playing a recorder or something like that. It would need to have a melody that could be played on a single instrument like that. It totally makes sense.
Did you want to have a listen to Tony? You've released released a lot of the West on your own music publication forums.
Right. I did my version of what it would sound like if I was doing it, basically, in my version.
Right. Which one should we play? Should we play Tony? Should we play your version there?
Yeah, let's do my version first because it's a little shorter, and then we can go into Phil's version.
Okay, great. All right, here is Tony's version.
When my forefather's father awoke in the east, he looked at the sun in the sky, and he heard its clear voice as the day dawned anew, and the golden light shone in his eye. Now seek for the light in the west, and follow the sunlit road thither, to a land fair and free from the shadow of death, to a land where the plants never wither. Some folk bade him stay, do not follow the day, but a greater folk heard the call, and so they were sundered from kin in the east, their shadow could fall on them all. Fare ye well, in the east ye may dwell, the west we have heard is more fair. When we stand in the light by the lords of the west, we'll wish you were too standing there. When my father's forefathers came to the mountain halls, they found there a man stout as stone, and this man asked our folk, why journey ye west? You seek for a hall like mine own. We seek for the light in the west. We follow the sunlit road thither, to a land fair and free from the shadow of death, to a land where the plants never wither. Of the west I have heard, from the west came my lord, Mahal, who was carved from stone. But the stone is my home, and I wish not to roam far from mine own mountain hall. Fare you well, in the east you may dwell, for the west we have heard is more fair. When we stand in the light by the lords of the west, we'll wish you were too standing there. Forefathers to a shady wood came, they found there a man dressed in green, and this man asked our folk, why journey ye west? Is there aught in the west you have seen? We seek for the light in the west. We follow the sunlit road thither, to a land fair and free from the shadow of death, to a land where the plants never wither. From the west I do know, and thence my people go, since the hunter stood tall and keen. Follow wisdom or fear, but I shall remain here, for the lords of the west I have seen.
Awesome. So if I can, one little anecdote, Tony, about this song and its chorus. At Mythmoot this past year, we did a dramatic reading of episode 8 where it gets reprised. And if you remember, the reprisal of this song is done by the drunken youth at the beginning around the ill-advised bonfire for which they get in trouble. And we had 2 sessions, one session where we did the casting, where people who wanted to be involved in the reading came and were cast, and then the second time when we actually performed the reading. But I had a conflict. I was scheduled in another thing at the same time, and I just told Marie, who was there, I said, Marie, just cast me wherever. I don't care. You can cast me for whatever you want. And so she's like, okay, we cast you as the drunken youth. So you're supposed to be drunk and singing the Light in the West song. And I was like, and I had not much warning about this, and I was like, okay, all right. And I had heard it once. I heard it when you were first working on it before. I heard a draft version or something.
Probably the earliest acoustic demo that I did. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, okay, I better go listen to that again. And I was totally planning, like, I'm gonna have to like listen to this to make sure because I mean, I'm on the one hand, I'm supposed to butcher it, but it has to at least sound plausible, right? Like I'm butchering a song I actually know. But the cool thing, like I listened to it once, and like not only did like I perfectly able to like remember the melody and sing it after listening to it one time, I had it in my head for like the next 2 days. so I was like, yeah, no, that's perfect. That worked exactly the way it was supposed to work. So yeah, it was good. And then I think Marie was making it up to me by also
casting really that writing pop songs, like finding something that can hook people and you can remember. I mean, I still will catch myself singing it. And I'm like, oh yeah. I mean, even lots of my songs are like that, but especially stuff like this, where I'll be like, oh yeah, I wrote that. I forgot that I wrote that. Because it's just feel like it always existed.
Yeah. No, it's good. It's not only, it's not only good. It works really well for like how it is intended to work for like that. It fills very well the niche that it has. The 3/4 time is really interesting. It works really well. I mean, it's a fairly fast 3/4 time. So anyway, but it's nice because it has a nice beat, like you can totally imagine walking along to it, right? But the 3/4 time makes it bounce, a little bit as you're going along, which I think is a really
like
cool
I said, that imagining of the people going down to the river and walking and singing that song. I think that's where it kind of came from.
Yeah, that's great. So
we didn't get a recording of you doing the drunken version of it, did we? So we can release alongside these.
There is a recording of that out there somewhere. I think I'm pretty sure that exists.
We need this. We need this. Stat.
Yeah. I'm not sure that's going to be an instant classic, but yeah, exactly. Marie says we did record Mythmoots. Yeah, exactly. Somewhere in the Mythmoot recording, that precious little snippet is buried, I think, mercifully. Right. Oh no, Alana, I wasn't saying not to step on every beat, but I was thinking like basically on every triad, basically every 1, 2, 3, step 2, 3, step 2, 3, step 2, 3 is kind of what I was thinking as far as that. But again, it works really well like that because it doesn't. I mean, you can't have a marching song that pushes too cruel a pace upon you, right?
You're trying to write like a march in 11/8 or something like that. Yeah.
Right, exactly. But yeah. So it's but again, it's the fact that it's not just a 4/4 walk makes it more bouncy and dancey as you're going forward, which is a good thing, especially in the circumstances. And and I was reflecting on that, thinking about the lyrics as we were listening to it there again as well. Is the song is designed to be, on the one hand, it's like a teaching tool, right? Where it's Beor trying to help everybody understand where they're going, but it's also motivation, right? Like this is why we're doing this, right? This is why we're trekking, because, you know, we're headed off into this wonderful place where the plants never wither. And all that. So again, that it should be upbeat and bouncy, though also, Tony, as you were saying, reverent. I mean, it is you know, there very much is a way in which it's a religious song as well. So
and also, I think it also kind of gives it a little bit of an archaic feel, because a lot of medieval music is in 3-time.
Yes.
Especially religious music is in 3-time.
Right.
Last year I did a big giant 18-song Christmas album, most of which was medieval and Renaissance songs that I kind of did in a modern arrangement, and a lot of that stuff is in 3/4 and 6/8.
Interesting.
So, because for some reason it kind of lends itself to that kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. Nick's reaction was it has a very Alan Adale kind of feel, and I think that's what he's hearing is that kind of medieval thing, that kind of medieval tendency.
The other thing I really liked about the lyrics was the way that Rhiannon did it, where you have a thing for the people who are there, and then you have a history of men, and then their encounter with the dwarves, and then encounter with the elves, and it kind of serves as a little bit of a history lesson for him. It's almost like Treebeard's rhyme, where he has this rhyme of lore, and in a way it's a little bit like that too.
Right. So it's both a history of what we have encountered to this point, and, you know, the memory of what we are shooting for, and, you know, why we are doing it. Yeah. No, that's great.
Yeah.
So what were you thinking? So you did a different instrumentation version of this?
Yes. So I was coming at it from the point of view is that I wanted to make something more cinematic. This is how it would be in the scene in episode 1 if you were to see it. The only problem is, if you go back to, say, the Hobbit movies, how many of us were thrilled when we saw the first trailer and heard the dwarf cast singing "Far Over the Misty Mountains Cold"?
Mm-hmm.
And then how many of us were disappointed when we got to the movie and there was only 1 or 2 lines extra? We only got 2 verses. We didn't get, but we wanted the whole song.
The whole
song, but we didn't get it.
Right.
So, and I understand.
They didn't do it on the soundtrack either. On the soundtrack, they never did more of it on the soundtrack.
No, they never did it, and I understand the reasons for doing that. It was doing the whole poem was not going to move the story along. And I looked at the script that Rhiannon had written, and I thought, that's 5 minutes of people walking over the mountains. That's a long time for people to be walking over the mountains, watching them sing. It has to do something more. Right. So I've done more with this. And as Tony said, this is the history of the people. So I've tried to bring in, and I would imagine that the visuals that I've used would be like flashbacks of their backstory, so that we get an understanding that they started from Hildorian when the sun first arose, then they encountered dwarves, then they encountered elves. So it would be extra footage to really fill in those blanks. And we've only had those brief glimpses of Morgoth when he went to the elves, to the men last season.
Right.
We haven't seen anything else. The history of men has been totally hidden from us.
Right. And we don't spend a lot of time in exposition explaining that, during episode 1 and 2. So the idea is to basically use this song, not only, Tony, as you were suggesting, as like an immediate history of the House of Beor there, but as background for, for the arrival of humans, basically. What have they been up to and what have they been doing? Yeah.
And another thing I liked in Rhiannon's lyrics that she did is that she doesn't refer to dwarves as dwarves or elves as elves. She says men who are like this, because they're still coming at it from a completely human perspective, and that's the only way they can see things right now.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, I went to work on it, and also I did this after we had our mid-season discussion about music. So I took on board some of the things that that we spoke about in that session, and I thought about different modes. As you'll see from it, it's really in a few, four sections. The initial bit, just the people walking, singing, unaccompanied. A really big cinematographic scene where we get the theme being stated again by the instruments, which is exactly what they did, what Howard Shore did in the Hobbit movies, Lord of the Rings. And then I've done the 3 stories about them leaving their kin, and the dwarves and the elves, in 3 different styles to really showcase the cultures of those of humans, dwarves, and elves. But also what I've done, the dwarf section is a lot of brass and drums, but it also it does a lot of the fifth, just does the 5th chord. Missing out the 3rd note because that determines whether it's a major or minor. So it's almost pushing it into the Mixolydian mode, which is, we talked about modes last time.
Yeah.
So the dwarves sort of got pushed into Mixolydian,
Nice.
and the elves sort of got pushed into Lydian because I was able to do a major lift like that and it alters Tony's chord structure a bit, but it adds an alienness to it.
Right.
And these are elements that I've used later on when I did my piece on the Athrobeth, which we'll see later on. But also another thing you'll notice in the elf part is there are lots of random instruments, and it adds again to that unexpected alienness of elves compared to humans.
Cool. All right. Well,
and this is the first. This season has a few firsts. First is other contributors other than myself. So well done, Tony. And we've got another one by Megan Searle later on. Second one, this is my first one with actual video.
Oh, okay.
I've never had a video with real video.
Okay.
It's only stock video, but it's video nonetheless.
Cool. All right. I love the way that you kind of give us a little visual idea, right? Some visual cues to accompany the different parts of the music.
Yeah. And imagine the people, the camera being able to see the people as they're walking over the mountains.
Right. Great. Okay, here we go.
The sun first arose, it arose in the west, and ever hath guided us thither, to a land fair and free from the shadow of death, to a land where the plants never wither. We seek for the light in the west, we follow the sunlit road thither, to a land fair and free from the shadow of death, to a land where the plants never wither. When my forefather's father awoke in the east, he looked at the sun in the sky, and he heard its clear voice as the day newly dawned, and the golden light shone in his eye. Now seek for the light in the west. Now follow the sunlit road thither, to a land fair and free from the shadow of death, to a land where the plants never wither. Some folk bade him stay and not follow the day, but a greater part heard the call, and so they were sundered from kin in the east, their shadow could fall on them all. Fare ye well, in the east ye may dwell, though the west we have heard is more fair. When we stand in the light by the lords of the west, we'll wish ye were too standing there. Forefathers to a mountain home came, they found there a man stout as stone. And this man asked our folk, why journey ye west? Do you seek for a hall like mine own? We seek for the light in the west. We follow the sunlit road thither, to a land fair and free from the shadow of death, to a land where the plants never wither. Of the west I have heard, from the west came my Lord, a hall who from stone made a song. And stone is my home, so I wish not to roam afar from mine own mountain hall. Fare you well, in the east you may dwell, though the west we have heard is more fair. When we stand in the light by the lords of the west, we'll wish you were too standing there. Fathers forefathers to a shady wood came, they found there a man dressed in green. And this man asked our folk, why journey ye west? Is there aught in the west ye have seen? We seek for the light in the west. We follow the sunlit road thither, to a land fair and free from the shadow, to a land where the plants never wither. Of the west I do know, and thence my folk did go, when the hunter rode tall and keen. Say wisdom or fear, but I shall remain here, for the lords of the west I have seen. Fare you well, in the east you may dwell, though the west we have heard is more fair. When we stand in the light by the lords of the west, we'll wish you were too standing there. We seek for the light in the west. We follow the sunlit road thither, to a land fair and free from the shadow of death, to a land where the plants never wither. To a land where the plants never wither.
Oh man, Phil, the modal transitions are brilliant. That worked so well. Oh my goodness, I like the dwarf one, but the elf one was amazing. Like the way that it Yeah, that transition, man, that worked even better than I thought it might work. That is so cool. So much cooler than just... Yeah, so go ahead.
Oh, we got some help along the way as well. We got a group of people to sing as well. And as Tony said, the chorus needed to be bolstered. All the people, and they were people from my choir and people who listen to Film and follow you. So they all recorded and sent it in. Tony mixed it all, which is fantastic. But the little Easter eggs in there, because we also had some dwarf harmonies in there that were doing really low bass harmonies, but at one point they're singing "Seek for light in the west," and same with the elf. We had soprano voices. They're singing the same thing: "Seek for light in the west." Behind it all, so there's sort of like that encouragement from those people to follow your dreams, do what you need to do.
Yeah, the way that it kind of the choruses, like right after the dwarf part and right after the elf part, the way that those choruses, kind of incorporate the modal, transition from those sections, but also just like run consistently through it, right? I mean, and Tony with your lead vocals, which of course is really great to have, like basically the voice of Beor, right? Be, the strong thread, the strong, leading the way all the way through. The consistency of that, right? Just like the repetition of the chorus, in your voice, which is unaltered, despite the fact that the tone, the mode of the music behind it is changing, was so cool.
The melody does change ever so slightly in the elvish chorus. That's right, the elvish verse, because of the shift in mode. I think it's the Lydian mode. A couple of the notes then have to go up a semitone, so then it gives them this kind of slightly like alien. Alien lift. It's basically the same melody notes, but now in that mode.
Right.
So it gives a slight shift, and I like that thematically, in that it kind of showed that this is the point where men start to change a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah, really influenced by and kind of accommodating themselves to the elves. Yeah, no, I loved that. I mean, just feeling the way that it was, it didn't give the sense of like, no matter whom we meet, like we are stubborn and we remain the same, going through. I mean, there was that kind of constancy right through it, and yet not, a mere like, okay, it wasn't like we shift to this one mode, for like the verse, and then like boom back to the, the original mode for the chorus. I can't pretend to have noticed that shift in the but I kind of felt it. Like I could feel that it was accommodating to the mode. Like I could feel that the elf mode was still happening right through that chorus, and that works really, really well. Though again, it's not like it sounded like it didn't make it a different song. It was still very constant, and yet altered. That's what
I was really going. I wanted to keep as much of it the same as I could, but just shifted that just a little bit to match what the new section.
Yeah. So you had
and filled on the
for the elves? The mode that you had for the elves was Lydian?
Lydian, yes.
Lydian, yeah.
So Lydian's characterized by a major, minor run. So it would be... So major.
Right. Cool.
So, the recognizable... tunes in Lydian mode is E.T., the extra theme from E.T., which goes da 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 da.
Right.
It does that, and it just adds that lift, that one note lift up to there, which makes all the difference in a song.
And on the dwarf section, I noticed when you went to the Mixolydian, you were using the 1 and 5 chords with no third in it. On a guitar, we call those power chords. Those are metal cores. So that means that the dwarves are metal. You know,
which totally works. It totally works. Yeah. Awesome. Well, that was so cool. I mean, I was throwing out random ideas in our previous music session, Phil, and you made it work just gorgeously. Yeah, thank you guys both so much for that. It's a really, really fun collaboration. I mean, just like thinking of all of the ways in which this song kind of brings together so much of season 4, right? You know, the ideas that we're, you know, throwing out there in the broadcast, the you know, the ideas that the, you know, script folks are working on, and Rhiannon's lyrics there, and then you know, the two of you guys working together and bringing back the Film singers from last time. So yeah, it's
How many vocal tracks did we end up with, Phil? It was like 20 or something, wasn't it?
Yeah. I think in the end we had about eight or so people contribute vocals, and some of them did multiple. So some of them did dwarf harmonies. Some of the women did elf harmonies as well.
So yeah, I want to say it was like 22 vocal tracks. So when you get to you know, where the chorus is really heavy, you know, you have literally a whole choir full of people singing.
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
Very cool.
And so well done, Tony, for mixing the audio for that. Well beyond my capability.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. Awesome. Well, we should move forward so we don't end up getting too late here. But so the next piece is the House of Beor theme.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So like we've done before, where we had kind of, well, basically we didn't have exactly 3 totally different themes for the 3 different houses of the Eldar. It was basically 3 different variations, kind of, right?
Yeah. We had a defining characteristic, and with the elf houses, that was they all started, because there are 3 kindreds of the elves. They all started with one note being played 3 times, and that was peppered throughout each of those themes. So whenever you hear that in any form, you should, if you listen to the music, you should know that that's an elf tune. Right. So yes, I've done a similar thing for humans, and the House of Beor, I felt that it had to start from the light and the west. So basically, it follows the same chord structure that Tony gave us for the light and the west. And the defining characteristic is this 1/5 leap at the beginning. And if you go back and listen to the light and the west, you'll actually hear just at the beginning of the instrumental section, you'll hear the horns making this call. So that is now going to, and I'll get up to why that is in the track after this. Okay. But yes. So all the 3 human tracks, Beor, Haleth, and Hador, all start off with that 1/5 leap. And also when we get to Harad, we have that as well.
Nice. Good. So we continue that through into the Third Age and beyond. That's great. So, and now this is also, I see this also called Wise Woman. So this also is going to basically become Andreth's theme in the second half of the season?
Yes, it will. So there's a little section, but what I wanted it to show was that it was the wisdom that made the people seek for the light in the west. That is the wisdom that the wise women have. So therefore, the little motif for the wise woman is part of the light and the west tune.
Right. Okay.
Yep. I know whether you want to go straight into it and then talk about it afterwards, because you probably.
Yeah, then we'll talk about it tomorrow. Okay. Excellent. So the shifts in instrumentation are really interesting there, right? We get the really dramatic moving to Nargothrond moment, right? So tell me about what I mean. So the thing that I can comment on most, right? What was most obvious upon listening through there is the shift in instrumentation. The Nargothrond part, then the Ladros part, and then the Wise Woman part, and then the kind of coming together, which was kind of blending the Wise Woman and the Ladros elements a bit at the end there, right?
Yeah, I always do try and find a counter melody, and it's I suppose a little bit of a hint of the Wise Woman at the end there with that da 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 da. Right. But yes, yeah. So yeah, very very sort of grand in the Nargothrond section there. Could you believe how hard it is to find pictures of Nargothrond that don't have Turin in them? Oh my!
Right. Yeah. He gets all the press.
But and I even added in Carillion, the bells. But one thing you might notice in all of the instrumentation is that there's this continual. There's a downward trend of all the instrumentation. Da 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 da. To give that idea of servanthood, submission. They are submitting to the elves. They're becoming servants by going to, even though it's all grand,
right?
There is that underlying current that the instrumentation is pointing out. And what would really, when I had a look at the script, the end of the script for episode 1. What I really loved was that when the humans finally get to Nargothrond and they walk in, they bow.
Right.
I really picked up on that and the music will reflect that and go dum da 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 when they bow before the elves when they arrive.
Right. And it is, I mean, it is a sudden increase in grandeur at that moment. But as you say, it's not like the musical lines in that place are like uplifting and it's not something that takes you up and soars, right? It is grand, but pointing downwards, as you say. I like that. And of course, it also dovetails with I'm not trying to transition yet because it's not yet time. So several things we want us to talk about with this one, but peeking ahead to where we're going next, that kind of downward trend also is really apt, right? As the the general trend towards decline and old age and death is, of course, a major theme in the first 3 episodes, as well as we're introducing the elves to mortality. So having again that downward trend also works really well in that regard as well.
It does.
So I really like the way that you use the snippets of The Light in the West in there, as if it was like, even though they've entered into this new world and it's very grand and it's very fancy and they're sort of moving on up like the Jeffersons, there's still this echo of a memory of where they came from. Like they haven't forgotten,
Right. And then the shift to Ladros. What was the stringed instrument that you were using in the Ladros section?
I think just guitar, just guitar. And I'm not a guitar player, but Tony can probably tell me whether that was a typical plucking. Thinking back to when I used to watch my father play guitar, and that seemed to me a typical sort of plucking.
I think it sounded like a classical plucked guitar with nails. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I wanted something a bit more down to earth, and just with the flutes as well, doing the theme. There's nothing grand. There's nothing grand about this theme now. It's just a simple theme. Once again, like The Light in the West, something that reflects simple people going about their everyday lives.
Yeah. Now tell me about the Wise Woman theme. The Wise Woman theme is kind of, as you say, the sort of the secondary theme, or sort of the counter theme.
Yeah. So I just went back to because my idea was that the wisdom that we were looking for really has to be rooted in the wisdom that brought the people west in the first place.
Right.
And the fact that Adenel knows the history. Adenel and Andreth know the history of their people and recall the sort of the hidden horror in their past without knowing the details. So that was what sent them west. And I just wanted to bring the viewer's mind back to that particular theme again. Just a reminder that that's why they left the west, the eastern parts of Middle Earth. So it was just that, and then occasionally a. Sorry, not looking what I'm playing. But at least if you just have that. But just repeating it, and even though it's just that line of 4 notes, no matter how it's repeated, you're still recalling the light in the west.
Right, exactly. But also, again, still that declining pattern. Yeah, cool.
Yep.
Cool. Neat. Okay, so now we can transition to the next bit, which is where we start talking about mortality. Now, this theme... Oh, hang on a second. So first of all, the House of Baor theme, obviously, we're going to need a little advanced... Not that you couldn't see this one coming, but of course, we're going to need the Baron theme for next season, which is presumably going to be building off of this, right? Oh, man, I can imagine a whole play with the Light in the West theme and concept, and his and the Light of Luthien, right? I mean, it's really easy to see how we could get some really interesting play in there.
And for the Athrobeth, because there's in the end of the Athrobeth, when we get to it, there is a merging of the two themes. And that to me is the theme going forward into next season. But I'll I'll find out your thoughts on that then. But yes, I'd love to. Look, I'm really interested in how themes mess with your mind. I've been getting into Star Trek a lot lately. I mean, I'm an old Star Trek fan from long way back, but particularly watching Picard. And there was a lot of talk online about how the theme was from the Inner Light, the episode where he gets the flute at the end of the episode. And I'm listening and thinking, no, it's not the Inner Light. But what it does is it chooses elements from that and elements from the Star Trek theme that we know and adds them together to create something unique but reminiscent.
Right.
So that's the sort of approach, and I'll happy to talk about that another time.
Just one of the things that's so much fun in talking this stuff through is that, as you say, musical themes in TV shows and movies just kind of mess with you, right? I mean, half the time I'm barely even aware that they're there, right? It's something fairly dramatic, musically speaking, has to happen before I'm like, oh yeah, listen to that music, right? I mean, usually it's just like it's almost completely subconscious effect that it's having on you. So, really, kind of thinking through and discussing the ways that is, kind of, we sort of envision that working and seeing how that is, interacting with and, upholding and sort of working with and working around and informing even the, the themes and the ideas and the characters that we're developing, I think is really, it's so much fun to talk about this stuff.
There's a great moment in The Mandalorian where they, throughout the entirety of that series, they're using all new music. They didn't use not one note of the John Williams stuff until the last scene of the last episode. And even though it very much has its own character, and then it hits you with that one theme, and you're like, then you like, oh wow, I get it now. We've been leading up to this.
Right.
Yeah,
that's so cool. All right, so let's talk about the Gift of Iluvatar here. So this is good. This is going to be brought out, I assume, primarily in episode. Was it episode 3? I think was the the one about the death of Baor.
Yeah. So this one, I'll just give a little preamble to it. This is based on a tune by Kurita Carita Alexander, long-time listener. And I actually wrote this in the first year of Film. She was really enthusiastic, and she said, "Oh, here's a tune that I've had for years and years. See if you can do something." And I listened to it and said, "Oh, that's perfect to represent the mortality of men." And it's really sad tune in the minor key. But it didn't just stop there. I sort of got to the end of it and thought it leads me into something else. And so I wrote onto it another piece, which is sort of more uplifting. And when I looked at it afterwards, I said, this is really about the everyday life of humans, and it's about the ordinariness. Nothing grand. It's very simple. And then when I came back to the death, the mortality of men theme, another theme came out then on top of that, over the top of it, and this is sort of rising up into some kind of crescendo, and it's something very, even though it's the same chord structure, it's something very different. And those attentive listeners will recognize this as the theme that I selected to play for the waking of men, and that is the gift of Iluvatar.
Right. Okay.
So even though I've had this in the wings for years, I was able to pull it out for that very dramatic moment in the story, and it'll only now be fully revealed when we get to, which is a typical Howard Shore thing.
Right. So we start with the sort of sadness of death, right?
Yes.
But by the end, it transitions towards kind of looking at the big picture, right, and thinking about the gift of Iluvatar.
Yeah. Sadness of death, reminiscence about life and how fulfilling human life has been. The grander idea of humans, but also in the end, I mingle the two themes together, so you can't have one without the other. Like death and anything beyond death are intrinsically intertwined.
Absolutely. Awesome. Okay. Well, let's listen, and we can talk about it a little more. I love the overlay in the end, that last section, when the mortality melody comes back at the end. It was really powerful at the end there, that combination.
And I don't know whether you noticed at the very end, the high note is basically that long-lasting note is a Luvatar's note. Right. So it had to be based in the key of D right. With the Luvatar, and if you want, Luvatar's note can play right through the whole of that particular section as a sort of overarching. This is a Luvatar's doing here.
Right. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, I love that. So is that latter part of this song is the one you were thinking is like basically kind of the sort of motif or theme for the transition into next season?
No. I sort of, as I said, I did this very early on, and then after our discussion partway through the season, I thought about different modes. So the Athrobet is somewhat different to this, but it does light on similar themes.
That's right. It's the Athrobeth one that you said is the one.
Yes, the Athrobeth one is the one. Yeah. Yep. So thank you to Karita for loaning that melody. It's a really powerful melody there. And this is where the link is to the Houses of Men theme. So the let me see. I'll just bring. I've got my scores in the background. So that's the Gift of the Luvatar theme, how it starts. So and it's talking about the mortality of men. So every human theme is going to begin with that 1-5 rise, the one. And so every human theme is reminding us of the mortality of humans. Right.
Yeah. Awesome. So it's literally mortality, right? That kind of connects the different Houses of Men themes together. Yeah.
That's right. Exactly right. And even though it doesn't quite, and so that has been used. Of course, this is in episode 3. It's been used in episode 1 and for the House of Bjor, but also beyond that. Before that, I've used it in the Hiding of Valinor theme with the Ban of the Valar. I brought that in because that had to be a combination of human and elf themes. So it's just the that. And then bang, bang, bang for the elves. Bang, bang, bang. Just to combine those two. So I have used it previously.
Yeah. Oh, that's really cool. Nick says that he loves how it's like you can hear the beating of Beor's heart there at the end. In the final sequence. Yeah, I think that's it's very cool. Awesome.
So when you were talking earlier about the idea of death and love, it made me think of the Haldir quote where he talks about in all lands, love is not mingled with grief, and thus makes it stronger. That idea, those things do things make each other stronger. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Very cool. Okay, so then we transition to our first other house, right? We through the first 3 episodes we're very Beor heavy, right? And now we get the house, the Haladin here, as we move forward into the middle of the season here. So what were you thinking for the Haladin? What was your kind of main concept with them in their house?
I wanted it to center around Haleth as a character, and so the theme had to be her voice. I was inspired by one of the themes from the Harry Potter movies, which was Lily's theme, which is used for Snape. Right. And that's a very haunting, just vocalizing in the background. And I got very talented Kathleen Dallin, who famous cosplayer, I believe. Marie put us in touch, and she did a wonderful job of doing the vocals for Haleth. So this one just follows the house through their individual journey. I almost got sidetracked in the middle with the stockade battle, but I resisted and put that into its theme all of its own in the next one, Bulldog.
Right.
I thought Bulldog needed his own thing. So it goes through those, like Haleth as a character, the stockade battle, the journey through Nan Dungortheb, and then their final resting place in Brethil, and the differences that the theme undergoes as it goes through all those different stages to finally end up in that place of reasonable contentedness.
Right, right. Yeah, really, I mean, as far as sort of peace and content, really the most contented and most peaceful of all of the three houses. I mean, the House of Hador are happy where they end up. But they're very much, it's different. It's not the same as the kind of peace and contentment that the Haladin have in their place. And it lasts longer too, in Brethil. So, yeah. Yeah. Okay. And now you did a separate Nan Dungortheb theme, right?
Yes, I did. And this was where I had to make a decision at this stage whether I incorporated all the elements of their journey, and instead I pulled out the enemy orc type theme, which I hadn't done before, and also the Nan Dungortheb, which is used for Arathel's story as well. So I brought it out as something separate.
Okay.
But the music in this does really characterize. Now, I must say, I've used judicious editing of the text of various Tolkien's text in this one to basically get the audience to believe that the events portrayed here in Silmarillion are actually backed up by the text.
That's right. We're retconning the Silmarillion to match our scripts.
We are.
Yeah, clearly. Yeah. All right, let's listen to the House of Haleth.
Oh
Sorry, I was laughing in the middle at the shift in the text. That was fun. That was very cleverly done with the Tevildo section. I am fascinated by. In fact, can I want to hear again the melody, the sung melody at the beginning, which was unexpected. I just want to hear it again.
Right.
Just that melody again. Unexpected is the word I keep wanting to use. Like it keeps not going where I think it's going to go. That melody. It's I don't know if that is an observation about the melody or about my own bizarre expectations. But tell me more about that melody and kind of like the you know, sort of the style and mode of that tune.
Well, Haleth to me is not an incredibly happy character.
Mm-hmm.
Like she undergoes sort of like she has greatness thrust upon her. I think this is an element that you've talked about during the year, and those talking about Haleth. Responsibility thrust upon her, taking up the mantle of responsibility. Not because she wanted to, but because she was capable, and because she had that element of leadership, those leadership qualities. So it wasn't anything grand. But it had to be in a way haunting and unsettling because it was not something of her own choosing. So yeah, I wanted to put that haunting feel to it. But at the end, when they get to Brethel, it changes so it's in major for the first few movements, and then at the end it transfers into a major key.
It starts in minor. You mean
sort of like a relief,
right?
And you can just imagine someone humming this while they're going about their normal daily duties. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that was where I was coming from with this one.
Yeah, definitely haunting, and it kind of it has that sense of like transitioning, like the several times where it does the like halftone, you know, kind of slide up, right, and kind of transition. Gave me the sense of like, you know, of change, of development. Like it's not just, as I say, unexpected. Like it did not carry me through to the resolution of the melody that I kept expecting, right, or feeling should come. It just kept shifting and not just going there, not just coming to resolution.
Yeah. Every time, and it's unresolved. You are exactly right there. The ending of the melody is unresolved every single time through. Initially for the Stockade, for Nandan Gortheb, for Tevildo. It's not until we get to Brethel at the very end where you finally get that chord resolving, and there's a feeling of they've made it.
Yeah, it does feel very much when you can feel that shift to the major at the end, right? With it's yeah. No, that's great. I love that, and it doesn't feel. It feels very different in tone. I was trying to place like what kind of like, you know, culture or you know, sort of tradition was it reminding me of, you know, that again the feel of it at the beginning, you know, and I couldn't really place it exactly.
It feels a little Celtic to me. I think. Like Welsh sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Perhaps there are even times when there were like little moments when it was making me think of like a Pacific Island kind of thing. But I wasn't, but then I kept losing it. Like I would like almost be like, oh yeah, this sounds kind of, but like Polynesian or something. But then no, it's not. And then it shifted away.
It's not your typical. No, it's not. You're right. It's not your typical melody. It does meander around and has no clear resolution until, as I said, the very end of the piece. Yeah, look, I'm not sure. I have to go back and sort of analyze. Often I do things intuitively.
Right.
It's not, and I'll probably need to go back, and I've sort of recently brushed up on my music theory, so I'd better go along to all my scores, putting in my Roman numerals, 1,
Right.
4, 5, little 6.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Just so that I understand more what I have been doing.
You mentioned Lily's theme from Harry Potter.
Yeah.
It definitely reminded me of that. And the great thing about a melody or a part like that is that it can completely change in meaning depending on what image you're seeing it in context of. Because they use that a bunch of different ways in the last Harry Potter movie. They use it partly for the memories, but then they also play it. The last time you hear it is when Voldemort dies. So it adds that extra layer of this is sort of, Lily's been sort of, avenged or whatever, at the very end of that, yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, so the next one, the Bulldog theme emerged out of the Holla theme originally, the Stockade Battle?
Yes. In the middle of the Stockade battle, and I was thinking, I really need to do something about those orcs that are attacking, and Bulldog's leading them, and he really needs a theme of his own. He's like, and I really haven't, apart from Melkor and Sauron, I haven't really delved into the evil characters' themes at all. So once again, I was taking on board what you were saying last time, and around different times. So this one changes times throughout, but Bulldog himself is a clear statement of his theme, and it's got a 6-beat. So it's what is it? I'm not sure. So it's a very quick 6-beat. So it's 1 2 3 4 5 6 1 2 3 4 5 6 1 2 3 4 5 6
6 8.
Yeah.
Yep. So rather than and then the orcs go into a traditional sort of 4/4 beat after that. But every time Bulldog's there, the timing of the music changes.
Okay.
Beautifully, and lots of brass, of course. Now, for those people, and I mentioned Elvish themes before, keep your ear out for the Elvish themes in here, and tell me what I've done to the Elvish themes.
All right. I'll keep an ear out for that. Here we go. I heard the those were chords. I mean, what kind of chords are those? The bam 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 bam.
Yeah,
for the orcs.
Yeah, exactly. They're only a semitone apart. Those two notes there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I wanted that to be a reminder of the origin of the orcs, and every other Elvish tune that we've had. It's always a pure note. Right. And this is that clashing. You can't get any closer unless you go into another culture's music, but can't get any closer notes than semitone difference.
Right. Yeah. So you get the semitone difference of making the corrupted elf theme, right? Yeah. And of course, with the way that gets combined, especially with the percussion, it gives it that kind of military feeling as well, for the marching hordes of the orcs there also. Yeah. And
we had lots of Morgoth's triad in there as well, because Bulldog is reports to Morgoth. He's in his allegiance. So
right. Morgoth triad, right? Yes, absolutely. I loved I love the corrupted elf thing there, and I could see lots of places where we can where that could get incorporated, at some really interesting moments, right? And possibly not even only when orcs show up themselves, right? But yeah, oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. I love I love this. This is exactly the kind of stuff that normally you're only vaguely aware of on a subconscious level, right? So it's really fun to hear it and think it through. Yeah.
Well, I remember the first time I saw the Two Towers at the cinema. I was anticipating the music, and then I came out and said, "What happened to the music? I didn't take notice of the music."
Yeah.
I sense it's only very rarely that I come out of watching a movie and think I got like the music made sense. Mm-hmm. And one of those, if anyone has ever seen Kubo and the Two Strings, it's an animation, stopgap animation, children's movie, a wonderful movie, but the music and the magic in the story are intertwined, and that was how I was able to get what was happening with the music there.
Yeah, very cool.
You've got to have your ear in, going in.
Definitely. Okay, well that brings us to the third house, the House of Hador, right? And now, so let's see. So clearly the House of Hador is the most military of the three, right? In our kind of way we were handling the three different houses in season 5, we were really emphasizing that the House of Hador was the one who kind of joins with the elves as, allies and kind of conscious collaboration with them, rather than sort of first the subservience and then departure that we get with the House of Baor.
Yep.
So what were some things that you were thinking about, and if you want to say as preamble for the House of Hador?
Well, the House of Hador spawned some of the greatest heroes in the story. So from my point of view, this needed to have the potential to become something very heroic, in the same way that Halloth's theme did not.
Right.
In the opposite way. So by a striking coincidence, that the leap that we're talking about, that 1/5 leap, is also used for hero themes.
Right.
And the one of the most famous is, of course, Star Wars.
Right.
It starts off with that 1/5 leap. So Hador is more sort of in homage to that kind of thing. But I also went from the discussions that you and Nick had around, and particularly around the script or the script outline for the episode for Hador, where he has his first failure. He starts off with failure, and then goes with the elves, and then comes back quite victorious. So at first it's a sort of it's in a minor key, and then as he makes that transition to being under the tutelage of the elves, it's sort of with their influence, it becomes a major key, and follows more of the hero's formula for a theme.
Yeah. Cool. Excellent.
And I've also, yes.
All right, let's hear this one. some dragon helm stuff in the end there.
Yes, I couldn't resist. I had to put the dragon helm at the end there. But yeah, not as big as the official dragon helm theme. Yeah, we only had 2 renditions of it there at the end.
Yeah,
but it slotted in so well into his theme. Yeah, that's sort of very, very heroic, and that sort of galloping music going on there for their journey onto Ardgalen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. That. Yeah, it's the
yes,
I like the percussion
after,
with the cavalry stuff.
After our music session, where I sort of where I said to you that I felt that the House of Hador were just like the Rohirrim without the horses, you and Nick decided that they had horses.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So they're just like the Rohirrim, except with slightly different horses. Is what we in the end decided.
So I had to incorporate a horsey feel to it, and did exactly what Howard Shore does in the Two Towers. It's like a
right.
To just add that beat to it, and suddenly, voila, you got horses.
Right. Here you go. Here you go. Yeah. Nick says the beginning feels very Conan to him, which he says is exactly the feel that it should have. As you know, he says Hador is the most Conan of all of our characters. Yeah, I hadn't thought of it that way, Nick, but I can feel that. Yeah. Nick apologizes. Says it's a function of the geography. You know, in the end, we needed to give them horses. They couldn't get very far running around.
So that old bunny sled.
Yeah, exactly. We didn't want to go there. So they needed horses. Yeah, very cool. Marie says the music is hands down the best part of the Conan films. So, yeah. Picking up on the best.
That first one's a lot better than it deserves to be. You know.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's true.
Especially that score.
It's true. It's true.
Yep.
So the next one is kind of an application, right? As we come to the debate in Estalon.
Yes. So we're moving our way through the season with the tunes. And once again, that's a picture of Turin wearing the dragon helm, and so that's what. Yeah, there's no artwork of Hador wearing the dragon helm at all. It's amazing. There is some fabulous artwork out there, and I have trawled the sites to find near to perfect artwork, but there's still some gaps in there. There are some big fan communities out there for some. I didn't realize there were huge Feanorian fan communities. Huge, absolutely huge. And they hold the Feanorians up as gods almost. Have done all this fan fiction and artwork around them. Just another word, the Oath of Feanor. It got picked up by some of those Feanorian communities.
Oh yeah,
and it's now my most viewed video. Prior to that, my most viewed was the very first one, Iluvatar, which had about 1,000 views. This now has over 6,500 views. I'm stoked, absolutely stoked.
There you go. Everybody loves Feanor, so there you are. Okay, so now the debate theme is a shorter one. So this is one. Is it connected explicitly to the Hador theme, or is it just kind of for the sort of discord and unsettled, time in Estalon?
Yes, it's a new theme, and this is the theme by Megan Searle.
Okay.
She posted this. She shared some of her files with me, so I've given it the same treatment as my pieces get. So it's a bit more polished. She posted this earlier this season, and she was back in season 2, and she posted this as. This is something that she was inspired to write about the debates of the Valar. and so the video shows that. But also, I said, look, that's entirely applicable for the debate at Estelad, and we can reuse that theme from season 1 and 2 into season 5 with Estelad. So yeah, she's done a great job with this. It's not connected with any other themes, but I think it fits in quite well musically with the other work.
Right. Great. All right, let's hear it. The ending was very surprising. The kind of I don't think it was bells. Was it like a glockenspiel or something there at the end?
Yes, I think in the end I substituted a what was it? A vibraphone. That's right, okay. A vibraphone. Yes, yeah. Well, I love the way that it's like different instruments taking over the theme, and then another one would cut in and take over the theme again, and there are lots of little clashing notes everywhere as different points of view would be opposing each other. I just thought it was great, and well done to Megan for getting that one out there.
Yeah.
So I hosted it on my. She was fine with me hosting it on my YouTube channel.
Yeah, that's great. Well, that's great to have her contribution there. That's really and I do like the way that works for without just being, one of the things that was that I was kind of most interested with it is that there was less sort of clash than I expected there might be. Instead there was more of the kind of give and take as you were describing, like as the theme is passing from one instrument to another there, which was, as I say, a debate theme I expected to be a little bit more discordant than it was, but I think that's kind of interesting, actually. Yeah, cool.
And yet, look, there are no artwork of the debate at Estelad. No one is at all interested in doing any visual representations of that.
No fake Amlach art out there at all?
No.
Wow.
No.
Wow. That is shocking. As you say, there's interesting holes in the fan community's focus. Yeah.
One of the interesting things that I came across is there's this real connection between Haleth and Caranthir. And one thing I missed in that script, and what these communities are saying is that Haleth and Caranthir fought shoulder to shoulder, side by side, and I actually would have loved to see that in the episode. I think that would have been just the icing on the cake, and then they can look at each other coolly after that. But for the first part, I think I would have loved to see that scene.
Yeah, interesting. Maria's taking notes. She says so. There we go. Yeah.
Well, you can do like a 5-minute fight scene by just saying they fight, and then.
Right.
Cover.
Yeah. I mean, it's because we have them. We have the Fëanorians coming in on horseback, right? As more of a, less we're joining the battle and more of a we're, the relief column coming in to mop things up, and approaching from the completely other side. It's a little. Caranthir would have to do a lot to get to her, because he's they're surrounding the stockade and he's coming in from the back, so he'd have to
just
cut his way all the way through.
Just sometimes where we want the payoff. We really want the payoff.
Right.
And that fits into that particular category.
Right, exactly. I agree. Yeah, Nick, I'm with you, as you could hear from what I'm saying. Nick was saying that would be very difficult to arrange logistically, just saying. Yeah, no, I was thinking the same, Nick. I'm like, he'd have to carve his way all the way up to the front and then fight alongside her, right? It's like if Caranthir and Haleth meet each other, the orcs are gone, right? I mean, because they were between them all, right? So, it's not impossible, but it would be challenging. Yeah, exactly. Marie's thinking the only way she can think of it happening is if it works the other way. If Haleth initiated a sortie and ends up meeting, him there, maybe that could work. Interesting.
Like an echo of Aragorn and Éomer on Belmont.
Yep. That's and in the aftermath. But obviously this will be rolled out during and probably when Agnor and his brother, meet their death. So those really confronting scenes where we're seeing elves getting trodden on and killed. Yes, I would envisage this theme being used then. This is a really important piece in my development of themes because it fits hand in hand with the Grief of Men, the Gift of Iluvatar theme. It follows the same chord structure, but it is much slower. And I'm going to, don't ask me how yet, but I'm going to use those two themes for next season because next season is, I believe, the first time that the show will have the need for the third theme from the Anal Indolate. So as you know, I did the first theme back in the Girdle of Melian. Right. I did the second theme last season for the Resistance is Fruitful. Resistance against Morgoth is Fruitful. And then next season, when Luthien dances before Mandos, that to me is that mixture of the grief of men and the sorrow of the Eldar. So I needed to have two distinct themes for those two ideas to be able to mix them into a third theme, which will give me my third theme for the Anal Indolate and another step towards writing that piece of music.
There you go. Pretty soon you will have written the whole music of the Ainur, which is...
I know. Yeah.
I gotta think that's pretty much right. It's like the career apogee for any composer, right? Is to write the music of the Ainur. I mean, it's hard to go up from there.
It's never been done. It's never been done well. It's been done, but it hasn't been done well.
Yeah. Exactly.
Until the second theme happens, Until the second music has been dropped.
Exactly. Exactly. Okay, so Sorrow of the Eldar. I really like the choral voices that come in there in the second half. That was the kind of the sense that gives of the kind of communal effect here. You know, we're not. Mm-hmm. It's not just the sorrow of individual Eldar here or there, right? It's you know, this sense of.
That's right.
Yeah, for the whole you know, the whole kind of Elvish perspective, the whole Elvish community. Yeah.
It also has some elements of my Nienna theme creeping in there, with the that bit there is from Nienna's theme, and there's another bit in there that draws from that as well. But I was very careful not to draw heavily on this. This wasn't going to be a Nienna theme, because the text. The text to me quite clearly says that the third theme of the Ainlinn G'lai had no input from the Valar. It all came from Iluvatar and contained the grief of men and the sorrow of the Eldar. Right. So for me, there was no. This was not a sort of a callback to Nienna. But there were some elements which echo her theme in there.
Yeah. I agree. You can't go too heavy into Nienna, but it's a just the idea that there would be some kind of touch, some kind of context, you know, Nienna context to their sorrow. Yeah, because of course that's one of the things that is sort of particular, right, to the grief of the Eldar, is they have a different context for it, right? They understand it differently in the context of Arda as a whole, right? And that's another thing that I really liked about that choral rise there at the end, because again, that's part of it, right? It's human grief is more likely to be sort of local, you know, right? Focused on your own experience, the experience of those around you, right? Whereas again, when elves are grieving, it's like a part of their recognition of Arda Mard, right? I mean, like their connection with Arda long term and seeing the whole big picture that way. It's always there seems to me to be an important conceptual element, right, of the grieving of the Eldar, because it you know, even as we've talked about before, even their reaction to things like physical suffering and death is not the same. Like it's not a loss in the same way to the Eldar in the same way that is, like dying in battle or having your friends and family die in battle. It's not that it's meaningless, right? It's not that it isn't sad, but it doesn't mean the same thing to elves that it does to humans. And so but again, that's one of the ways in which I think characterizing that difference is one way to think about it, is that larger, wider view, which they all share, which they all kind of partake in. So again, that's the other reason why I really like that element.
Yeah, and it really focuses on one of the themes that you spoke on this year about how long it takes elves to do something. So as I said, the chord structure is the same as the grief of men and the gift of Iluvatar theme, but it's played at about one third the tempo. That chord structure going down, da, da. In the men, it was da, 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 da. In this one, it's da, da, da. Nice. Da. It takes them even longer to grieve.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. It would have been hard to do it at a 1/12 pace, but same idea. Same idea. Sorry, making Nature of Middle-earth math jokes now. You certainly couldn't have done it at 144th the tempo. But yeah, no, that's cool. That's really neat. That's a really fun sort of Easter egg. Okay, and now the big one, right? The Athrobeth theme. Anything you want to lead into with this one?
Yeah. Firstly, there's a lot of text in this one. There is so much text to get through, and so much great text that I wanted to put into this one, but couldn't. but even though I crammed in a little bit more, so probably first time through, ignore the text as much as possible. One thing that I wanted to say, okay, so the piece begins with some clashing music. So they are the two different themes. So this piece develops an elvish theme, and it develops a human theme. So the first part of it, when there are just two instruments playing, it's the human and elf theme playing against each other, and there are some clashing elements to it, which are not. But I had a comment saying it doesn't sound very good, so it's not supposed to. They're actually clashing in their whole outlook about life, and in speaking about this one, the elvish one as being in Lydian mode, it has, as I said before, that rising, that major, and then minor, but then it just rocks back and forth between that. At the beginning, it just goes. Actually, I think it just goes up there, then down, then up. It just rocks back and forth, and then finally going up to there. So I wrote a human theme which used the same chord structure, but the really good thing about using that Lydian mode is that it very easily translates into the Ionian, which is the basic,
the normal
major
one.
scale, by going, and it resolves quite nicely.
Right.
So I've used that element to resolve the human theme, whereas the elvish theme doesn't really resolve.
Right.
And the other thing about it is that I sort of, what can I do with Lydian? I suppose let's just do a scale. So I just started and worked my way up through the chords just to show how alien they were. And then when I put the two themes, and of course had to write a new human theme around the same chord structure, but I then cheated and said, well, humans aren't alien. We understand us, and put it more into that Ionian feel, the basic major feel. And when I did that, and this is where the beauty, I think, of the whole piece comes across. It's when the two races move ahead together, is when harmony happens. And at the very end, so at the beginning, I said we've got the two themes playing against each other. That's just for the static bum, 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 not going anywhere. It's just staying there. But once you get to the moving piece, where it does that scale up, the very end is the two themes played over each other. And there is such, I think, just beautiful harmony between the two themes. And that is my stepping off point into season 5. Sorry, season 6.
Season 6, right. Yeah. Oh, very cool.
So once again, and I've really slowed down the Elvish theme a lot. So once again you hear the 3 Elvish notes, but it's really, really slow. And this one has a first. This is the first use of synthesizer.
Oh, okay.
Synthesizer, and I've really, because we're really going into that alienness of Elvish culture compared to human, that's where I've used it to, and it gives a real depth. And the really good thing about synthesizer is that it has a delay. When it's played, and then the sound comes in, which really fits in well with elves. Anyway.
Right. Cool. All right, let's hear it. Wait, no, let's hear this one.
The only real sports are auto racing, bullfight.
Hang on. All right, I gotta do the ad here, and skipping the ads. All right. Excellent. I did like how it comes together at the end. So you're basically sort of shaping their discussion, their lack of understanding of each other, right? They're kind of speaking at cross purposes and describing their own, perspectives at the beginning, and then through to growing understanding and that image of their hands reaching to each other across the gulf.
Yes. With there are some elements in there that need pointing out. In the middle, there's sort of a transitional section where a lot of the elf elements drop off, but human elements are introduced. And the first introduction you get is the violins going bum, 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 bum. And it's basically that's that 1/5 in the same book. Wait, there's death. Death.
Yes.
Yes, and having that sort of combination of the fourth chord and the fifth chord, and that rocking back and forth, the major with the elf theme at the very end, it hangs on for so long before finally resolving, and it sounds finally resolved then. At the very end, but I just wanted that final unresolved chord to hang there for as long as possible. But that's how the Elvish music finishes. It finishes in that, because they just keep on going on and on and on. So I think and it wasn't until I had listened to it at the end and thought, it wasn't until I actually moved the themes along together and did that upward scale that they actually meshed and work well together.
Yeah, cool.
I think with it took me a while to work out which images to put where on that. And obviously there are images there when Andreth is talking about her grief with the loss of the relationship with Agnor, which are heavily embedded in the elf section. But I thought it's better to look at that as this is the elvish point of view, and not so much this is Andreth's grief, but this is the situation, the elvish, the immovability of the elves, which has caused the grief. So focusing on that aspect rather than the human grief at those times.
Right. Yeah. No. I like that. I think that makes a lot of sense there. Yeah. All right. Well, as always, when we do our music episodes, we're going super long. So I'm starting to feel guilty about how long we're going
That's
here.
Fine.
And I know we got a couple long pieces still ahead. So
well,
you should
after
probably
midnight
push
for
along.
you guys.
Yeah. You should probably push along to so you have Ungoliant Nandungortheb. So tell me about the kind of the combination there.
So Nandungortheb really had to have its roots in Ungoliant. And I'd never done any music for Ungoliant. I listened to a lot of music to get inspiration for this, and in the end, I'm still not entirely happy with it. I've listened to Jerry Goldsmith's score for Aliens, his score for a lot of Star Trek First Contact, which has a lot of really unusual, unexpected music in it. I listened to Howard Shore's The Fly and watched The Fly a couple of times, as well as Howard Shore's music for Shelob. So in the end, I came up with this, and I wanted to, in Howard Shore's The Fly, he comes up with a 6-note motif, which is, I think, that's it. Which to me is the 6 legs of a fly. Right. So I've done 8 legs for Ungoliant, and basically, so this whole piece revolves around 2 chords. And then so there's 2 chords, that's C diminished, and then the B flat minor. just rocks back and forth between those, and so many different variations between the two. In the end, I couldn't actually make a distinction, but just if you want to do, and also what yeah, if you want to do Ungoliant, just make it big and bold with those 8 notes.
Right, exactly. Because we did we do an Ungoliant theme in season 1?
No, I never did that. And I'm still missing a few Valar themes as well. So I've always, there's a whole lot that I want to go back and do.
Yeah,
that I've missed.
yeah. Well, this will give us a chance, of course, because it will connect through to Shelob and everything. So we'll have plenty of opportunities for deploying this in different contexts. So, all right, cool. Let's hear it. I really like the creepy climbing note sequences and how they started kind of small and then they kind of got bigger over towards the end there.
Yeah, the smaller the spider, the quicker those those notes go.
Yeah, exactly.
At the end there, I used the tubular bells on that bang towards the end there, and they're played at the end of the end of the note. And this is a thing that Jerry Goldsmith did in Alien, quite use the tubular bells, but not at the beginning, but at the end of a beat. And I thought, I've only used tubular bells in reference to Doom in the past, like that's part of Mandos's theme, and it's also part of the Doom theme. But I figured if you're there and you've got a friggin' great spider in front of you, you've pretty much met your doom.
There's doom, definitely doom involved. Yeah, yeah. Now, tell me about the integration of the girdle theme in there, because of course Nandan Gortheb in particular is important. You know, that kind of border situation is really important there.
Yeah, I just wanted to splice that in and get across the feeling that that when Hellas people are going through, and to a lesser extent when the elves are passing through, that there's two elements working here to work on that idea of madness, and possibly a little. Yeah, I think I really upped the reverb on those bits as well to sort of get that echoey thing going. I think I can hear voices, and that real stepping into fairy.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and it's that kind of emerging in the middle of all the creepy, gloomy spider stuff is a really fun effect, because it kind of, on the one hand, almost sounds like a resistance of it, right?
Yeah, and it is.
I mean, it doesn't join with it, right? But yet it's part of it, right? I mean, it creates part of that overall effect. It does kind of join with it in a sense. Anyway, I thought that was a really good idea, and I thought that worked out really well. Okay, so we have two really long ones. Would you want to kind of so we got the Nan Elmoth suite and then the Harad suite. So this is like the Nan Elmoth suite is designed to kind of go over like bunches of different sort of elements of the Nan Elmoth storyline. Would you want to maybe kind of narrate over it a little bit as we go through it?
I think it'll be okay, because I've put text through as well. So the text will help you with the story, but pretty much I've started with Melian. I've gone back a few seasons and started with Melian in Nan Elmoth, and then shown how Eol has walked the whole forest, his creepy influence. And then, of course, the introduction of Aradhel into the story, the birth of Maeglin, and then the journey all the way to Gondolin and Maeglin being established there. One thing I did want to say, probably don't have time to listen to it, but Ange 1E4E5, I've got his name right this time, is always posting musical things, musical suggestions on the forum, and he actually suggested for Maeglin that I use as inspiration Anakin's theme from The Phantom Menace. Now, people may not know what that is, because it doesn't feature prominently in the actual movie, but if you're a completionist like me and you sit to the very end of the credits, it plays in its entirety at the very end of the credits, and you should go and listen to it, because it sets up a foreshadowing for Anakin's future, which you well know when you're seeing the movie. So I've done that with Maeglin. I've tried to set up a very distinctive Nan Elmoth theme, Eol and Eol's warping. So Eol has his own theme, and because there's this tug of war between Aradhel and Eol over Maeglin's theme ends sometimes with Aradhel's Gondolin theme, or sometimes with Eol's own theme, and we'll see that as the story goes through.
Interesting. That's cool. It makes me think, by the way, do you think we need like a treachery motif at some point, right? Like that, maybe we need something like that. I don't know.
I think this one is a pretty good indication. Final two notes, you'll say, "Oh my god!"
Yeah, moving in that direction. Yeah, exactly. Okay, all right, let's hear it.
Oh, and I also wanted there to be a slow transition from nightingales to a different sort of bird, which fits in well with the theme of the season.
cheerful ending. It's a cheerful ending. And everybody lives happily ever after in Gondolin. Well, almost everybody. Well, very few of them. But there's... yeah. The transition from Melian to Eol was wonderful. I loved that. That you could feel the darkening of the wood. The transition from the nightingale to the was it a raven or a crow?
Either, take your pick.
Yeah, exactly.
Probably crows. Yeah.
Yeah, that was really cool.
I thought, yeah. I figured that fits in well with our Harrod story as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Initially, that depth that you hear at the very beginning is a hark back to the girdle again. We talked about the magic, the very deep magic at the center of Nan Elmoth being what Melian used to create the girdle as well. So it's just doing that, but then I've warped it to. In the end, that's what it becomes.
Right.
That's his warping of that magic.
Right.
I wanted him to have a really memorable theme, in the same way that Darth Vader has the Empire theme. Everyone knows that. So it had to become really memorable. So it became this. Just that little motif should be enough to recognise. And so at the very end, you get with Miglin being in Gondolin, you get the harp, and the very last two notes are. And it's like, oh my God.
Yes.
Bad seed there.
Yeah, it'll be fun to hear that coming out again in the treachery and in the fall, and the integration of that into the Fall of Gondolin theme later on. Yeah. Yes,
yeah, that's right. But everyone should go and listen to Anakin's theme, because it at the end of the credits for the Phantom Menace, because it does that so well. I used to always think that oh yeah, I can just hear the Empire theme there, but I didn't realize that was Anakin's theme.
Right. Yeah, no, that's great.
You know, until Film, I had, for some reason, it had never registered in my mind that Nun Elmoth was also the place where Thingol and Melian met before, and that kind of weird parallel between Thingol and Melian and Eol and Arothel, and having those two things connected in the same suite is really good. It's really cool.
I was thinking
you get to see that sort of parallel there.
Yeah, and it really emphasizes that. It brings out something that is easy to overlook in the text, in which we kind of dealt with in the script, the scripts and the story to some extent. But I think the music brings out even more strongly, which is the parallel, right, between Melian, Thingol coming in and being ensnared by Melian's beauty, right, which is a happy ensnarement, right? It's a good thing, right? And Arothel coming in and being ensnared by Eol, right? And it's so that warping of it, right? It's a creepy parallel, and so yeah, Tony, I was thinking the same thing. The juxtaposition of those two musically was really powerful in that way. Really kind of acts upon the story in really interesting ways. Yeah, no, that's
if you listen to the sections where Arothel is being ensnared, if you just take away the Gondolin theme over the top, the da 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 da, just take that away and listen to what's behind that, and that would be what you have when Amlak is being ensnared. Listen to it in that. I couldn't put that in because that was purely film, and really fit in the context of what I was doing. But think about it that way.
Right. Yeah, that's great. That's great. Yeah. You know, one of the things I love, Phil, you seem to have been kind of integrating narrative into your compositions much more this year than I remember in years past. There were like elements and kind of concepts that you were developing before, but you're doing much more of a sort of narrative. And I know that in an actual score, we'd be getting bits, you know, here and there, you know, at different points in the episode. And it's not like we'd be at any point just listening to this, you know, like this chunk for all the way through, you know, at that, you know, but still, like the way that it all kind of comes together, it's really interesting to see that narrative being
And I've been relying on the text to do that as well, and purely because, I mean, tell me, what did Manway do? I mean, Manway's Manway. He didn't do anything. There aren't strong narratives built around around the Valor or the concepts that I was writing themes for before. But I have found in this season there are much stronger storylines that need to be displayed somehow. So I have relied more on the text to get that through, and otherwise the music, people wouldn't know what to anchor the music to.
Right.
The Valor don't have a lot of character development, really.
Right.
No.
Well, no, exactly. Yeah, there isn't that same drive. So yeah, I mean, it is a kind of a natural progression. I mean, as you say, season 1 is going to be mostly, you know, snapshots trying to capture, you know, the idea, the concept in a more sort of static way. But anyway, okay. So let's hear the Herod Suite as we.
This one is hot off the press.
Okay.
I've been working desperately to get this one done over the last, 5-7 days. I had a few elements here and there, but so it hasn't had the full orchestral treatment yet. And there are a few elements that I will probably still work on a little bit more, but it basically tells the story in very brief form. But what I'm really trying to do is showcase the different themes that would be played during the Harad sequences. I've rooted it at the beginning and the end in Howard Shore's themes, because we're now third age, very much in the Rings time of the movies. So I have borrowed from his scores there. You'll hear at the very end how my Myron theme is a variation of the Mordor ring theme from the movies, and you'll suddenly listen to it and say, "Oh yeah, it is. It may have been hard to pick." This has a lot of little themes in it. The main theme with Harad, as I said, I have used that 1/5, but I've actually used Phrygian mode this time.
Oh, nice.
I've used Phrygian mode because the main theme, and this will be really interesting when we get to the Black Gate, because we'll be having a very, very disquieting sound there. And that will be taken on to the Black Gate in the Lord of the Rings by the mouth of Sauron. Nice. So I hope that is really, but yeah, the 1/5 with that semitone just above the bass note there. I've also put in a theme when Gandalf's on the ship on his way. I hadn't done this. Goes back to Ulmo's theme. I only did a very little bit of Ulmo's theme and Ulmo and the Shoreland Pipers, but I've expanded a bit on that into this really sort of soothing, waxing and waning type sound there. I've put in, there's some diegetic music for the marketplace,
right,
that Gandalf travels through. So music that's just in the environment. There's the theme of Harad. I've given the Mouth of Sauron and the covert operations going on their own theme, which is basically going back to the Myron theme. Mm-hmm. That should be very familiar to everyone. I've also given Gandalf his own theme. He's never had a theme before in Howard Shore's works, and I'm working on something which is in the line of the Order of Wizards, which I was pleased to find. I looked at the word Istari and thought, is that it? and when I looked at the text, it's sorry, what is it? Istarion, the Order of the Wizards has a longer name in Quenya. So I've used the timing of that to create this little melody, which can be used for different wizards in different ways, but it'll have that same sort of timing. So it'll be sort of to get across the idea of the order. And of course the elephants in there as well, the Mumakil. Hope you like that. And I'm hoping that in the final script, I haven't really read the final script, but I'm hoping that there's a slight element of disbelief when they think that they're really going to ride out of there on a couple of elephants. Because it lends a little bit to that. So yeah, as I said, this is not the final version. I'll work on it some more and polish it.
Nick was just saying, "Tell me we have an elephant stampede theme." So
yeah.
Absolutely. Very good. All right, here we go. I love the closing theme there.
There's more.
Oh wait,
there's more.
Did I stop it
There's
too
more.
soon? Oh dear. Sorry. Oh, right. Nice. Almost missed the Mordor theme there at the end. Yeah. Excellent.
The diegetic music when as they're probably walking to them, I can totally see in my mind's eye Gandalf in the gray wool robes and the giant hat walking through there and like looking completely out of place, but there he is, and I love it. I think that's great.
I always envisaged Gandalf would go a bit native, and he would not wear the typical pointy hat and wear something a bit more like iconic as well, but not a pointy hat.
It can show him changing on the boat, despite on the ship down, disposing of his hat and wrapping a turban around his head or something. Yeah. Yeah. But I agree. That was I loved the marketplace music. That was and then leading into the Queen's theme there. So you get both the the kind of local color and then the grandeur of the palace there. That was a really nice transition there.
And I was experimenting as well with a sort of a Numenor theme there. I think I mentioned before that I'd like to do a 5-note theme. So when you see the palace, it's a relic of Numenor. So I've put in that 5-note. What I envisage would be, but I may change that. I may find a better 5 notes. I heard that John Williams tried 200 different variations of the 5 notes for Close Encounters of the Third Kind before he settled on those particular 5 notes. So.
Right. Awesome. Well, that is just spectacular. I mean, I think my other favorite part of this one was the coup music, right? When everything really turns, and the kind of transition into that with the kind of evil parade music, like the evil, the mouth of Sauron presiding over the festival, so like the creepy, ominous festival music, then leading into the music for the coup, was very cool. I really liked that.
Yeah. And it wasn't until the very end that I like. Yesterday, I think that I decided to use that Harrod City theme for the son when he, in a wistful way, when he was leaving, and it just had the very slightest change. Instead of that, it was just just a semitone difference, and it puts a whole different feel to it completely. As the son, he's lost, the older son has lost everything, and he'll never see home again, except when he goes there with Faramdor.
Right, exactly. Well, I was going to say,
Thorangel.
Yeah, well, exactly. As I was going to say, we can certainly bring back his theme when his character returns during the Thorongil arc, which I'm hoping will span several seasons as we later on down the road. Awesome. Well, I'm feeling guilty because I think we've set a record for like longest film episode ever in the history of film episodes.
Well, I've set a record for length of themes. I never thought that I'd beat the Hiding of Valinor, but 2 of them this time have gone longer than that.
Yeah.
But no, I think an important thing I was discussing with Nick recently. I've been pushed into a lot more creative, adventurous music than I was doing at the very beginning. And Nick commented and said, yeah, creatively, the creative people have come sort of leaps and bounds over the seasons. So we've been really, really stretched to create even more and more wonderful stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I think that we've all kind of grown through this project in lots of different ways. I was, yeah, I mean, even, you know, my own thinking about the books. I mean, one of the reasons that I was excited to do this project from the beginning was I was like, oh man, this is going to give such a wonderful new, you know, like fresh way of looking at the Silmarillion material and really kind of digging into the story in whole new ways, which it certainly has. But just as you were just talking about, and as Nick was, you know, saying to you before, it's also been sort of so much more than in addition, right? In addition to this, you know, kind of new and deeper encounter with the text of the Silmarillion itself, all of the ways that we have all been, you know, sort of growing and expanding during this process is a lot of fun. So awesome. Well, that is just spectacular. I'm really looking forward to moving. Baron and Luthien has so much potential for, you know, the score for season 6 is going to be a big deal.
Song duel.
Oh man, exactly. You've got the
third theme for the Iron Windlight.
You have to do Dairon the Minstrel, the Finrod Sauron song duel, as you say. You know, we're gonna have the whole like Huon Karkaroth thing going on, and oh man, there's just yeah, so much to be. Not to mention Luthien's song before Morgoth, Luthien's song before Mandos, right, as you were talking about, where we're going to get the third theme. Oh man, so much. So much. So it's going to be awesome. Well, thank you so much. Thank you, Phil, for all of your work on this. It's been just wonderful. I'm telling you that I'm still... even just from that first song, you know, the way that you have taken up the, you know, the kind of, I threw out some pretty random and ridiculous musical challenges during the course of this season, and you've done a wonderful, wonderful job with those. And Tony, thank you so much for your contributions as well. Again, that the one central iconic song of you know, really dominating especially the first half of the season, and in particular the Stories of Men. Was you know, you've really kind of made that a sort of a signature thing there for this season, and I really appreciate that. That's and I'm now totally going to have that song in my head for several days. So yeah, very good. Okay, well, I will say at the end of this, I suspect the longest ever film episode, we have one more episode in season 5. We're going to finish the Dagor Bragollach and do the duel with Fingolfin and Morgoth next time. So that's going to be huge. And that will bring to a close season 5, which is the epic record longest season ever as well. So so join us for that, and that's going to be 2 weeks time. So that's going to be the 21st of October, and then we will be bringing everything to an end there. So thanks everybody for joining us, and I will say, as always, thanks for listening, and Godspeed.